Hello. This presentation, titled The Use of Paper-Based Theatre in the Bilingual Classroom, Presentation of the Kamishibai project, has been carried out by three authors who were interested in implementing a project in the bilingual classroom of three different subjects at the University of Málaga. The table of content of this presentation is the following one. First of all, we are going to start with an introduction of the Kamishibai. What is the Kamishibai properly, the objectives of the project, the methodology, some final remarks related to indicating the benefits of implementing Kamishibai activity in the classroom, and some references. The Kamishibai is a form of street theater and storytelling that originated in Japan. This type of street theater and storytelling became very popular during the Depression. It consists mainly of a wooden structure, as you can see in the picture, and some illustrated cards. On the back side of this wooden structure, we can write the text of the story in one or different languages. There is one person who tells the story for small or even for large groups of people. Taking this concept into account, the Kamishibai, our main aim was to integrate three subjects from the degree of primary education at the University of Malaga. There were two subjects from the bilingualism promotion program at this university, plus one subject which was taught totally in Spanish. These are the names of the three subjects involved in the project. Another objective was to introduce the narrative discourse into the classroom practice in two languages, to promote imagination and creativity, to foster oral and written expression in two languages, and to include motor actions in an oral narrative discourse. As far as the methodology is concerned, we wanted to develop one product for the classroom, for the bilingual classroom, with two versions of two stories. One story in Spanish and another story in English. We also warn our students that the version in English could not be a translation from the version in Spanish. So there were two different versions of the Kamishibai with the same cards that they had to draw, and with the implementation of some more actions into the stories. There were 5 phases with regard to the Kamishibai project. Phase number 1 with some preliminary aspects. Number 2, the Kamishibai introduction into the classroom, text creation. Number 4, illustration, elaboration, and finally, story performance. With regard to phase number 1, in the preliminary phase, the faculty members involved in the project, we established some of the common objectives from the degree that were going to be implemented into the Kamishibai project, and also each faculty member from the project established specific competences per subject. In this preliminary phase, we established these specific competences in the different subjects mentioned before. With regard to the specific competences in the subject in Spanish, these are the specific ones: speaking, listening, reading, and writing appropriately in Spanish, acquire the capacity for understanding, using, and reflecting upon written text in order to achieve goals, develop the knowledge and personal possibilities, as well as participate actively in the society. And also know the methodological orientations for approaching students to the literary text through promotion of reading and textual production, and finally reflect upon classroom practice in order to innovate and improve teaching tasks in the teaching of language and literature, acquiring habits and skills for independent and cooperative learning. With regard to specific competences in the subject called Fundamentos in English, more or less the competences are very similar, but taking into account the foreign language, and also the second competence, the learning difficulties of languages in students with another mother tongue. And finally, the one in physical education didactics reflect upon classroom practice, which is similar to specific competences in the previous ones. Appreciate body expression as essential content for fostering physical development and healthy habits, and acquire the necessary resources for fostering long life participation in physical activities inside and outside school. In phase number 2, Kamishibai introduction, we presented the Kamishibai project to students in the different courses. The description of the project included specification of the type of illustrations they had to draw, more or less how many drawings, for example 12, and 2 different cover pages which were going to be different for the 2 versions, one in Spanish and another one in English, and the implementation of motor actions in physical education. In phase number 3, they had to create properly the text for the 2 versions. There were some recommendations in this phase in the different classrooms. For example, clear and direct texts. The stories were going to be short, with simple vocabulary and non-complex syntax above all. In phase number 4, they had to elaborate the illustrations, and they had to take into account for the cards that the illustrations were going to be common for the 2 stories, for the 2 versions of story. They could also have different orders in the 2 versions of stories, or the same order with a different story in it. And also we recommended, another recommendation was to carry out some mind maps for organizing the content before establishing properly the phase of drawing the cards. And the images had to be clearly delimited with no complex background or scenes or settings. The images must reflect the essential aspect of the event and also the characters involved in the story, and also the relevance of the colors that they were going to use in the story. In phase number 5, they had to perform. They had to act out the 2 stories, the 2 versions of stories. One day, the performance was carried out in the classroom of Estrategias. Another day in the subject of Fundamentos, and another day with real audience in a school. These are the Kamishibai versions of in 2 languages, Kamishibai in English, Kamishibai in Spanish, and also the team, or the group of students who carry out the 2 versions of the Kamishibai in the classroom. And finally, we have included some pictures of the different Kamishibai in English, as you can see in this slide. Just to finish, some of the final remarks or some of the benefits of implementing the Kamishibai in the classroom, as indicated at the beginning in the objectives. One of the benefits is the promotion of the teamwork among students. Also getting familiar with the narrative discourse and structure, and with storytelling specifically for young students. The practice of several techniques of oral and body expression, development of creativity and imagination, because they had to create two versions using the same cards for the Kamishibai. And finally, the opportunity for sharing the creations with the target audience, with the partners, and also with the target audience at school, with real students from primary school education. And that's all. Thank you very much for listening to us, and we hope you enjoy with the Kamishibai if you have the opportunity to implement this in the future. Thank you.